Is something eating your eggplant before you can get to enjoy the fruits of your labour? Hi, and welcome to my happy place, the Garden Bench Top. Today, we'll be looking at the animals that like to eat your eggplants in your garden. Nothing is more frustrating than watching baby eggplants slowly develop into mature fruits. Yes, they are fruits, only to have someone or something snatch it away right at the last moment. So the big question is, what animals are eating your eggplants? The types of animals that can devastate your eggplant crops are the usual suspects, like rabbits, squirrels, deer, rats and raccoons. We'll investigate all these suspects, including methods of preventing them from striking again. So let's begin our investigation and look for the clues that will tell us which animals have been preying on your eggplants. The first suspect is the Majestic Deer. Don't let these stunning creatures fool you. Deer can certainly prove to be a nuisance for the home gardener. Within a single night, one deer can devastate an entire garden, nibbling and snacking on your lovingly cultured garden as they move from plant to plant. Strangely, however, there are some plants and vegetables deer will turn their nose up at, and eggplants happen to fall into this category. For some reason, the taste of eggplants don't satisfy the deer's taste buds, and they will readily move on to tastier pastures or treats. Deer also don't like thorny or hairy plants, like cucumbers for example. The feel of the prickles in their mouths turns them off. All that being said, if a deer is hungry enough, they will eat just about anything and overcome their aversions to the prickly and bland tasting treats. So are deer still a suspect in your case of who is eating the eggplants? Well, it will be pretty obvious if deer are the culprits for your missing eggplants. Not only will the leaves and fruits of your plant be gone, but other plants and flowers will also be stripped in your garden. This is especially given a deer's preference towards other tastier treats over the bland taste of eggplants. You will also be able to see hoof prints in the scene of the crime, as well as droppings, because they like to defecate while they eat. So how do we stop the deer from eating your eggplants and garden? If you suspect deer are performing nightly raids on your garden, then there are a few things you can do to deter them from frequenting it. There are plenty of commercial products available online that will help to form a perimeter around your garden. These usually come in the form of repellent sprays or granules that you spread around. However, if you're looking for a more organic solution, you can try spreading human hair clippings around your garden. The scent of the human will scare the deer and they'll hopefully move on to tastier pastures. In the same vein, hanging bars of soap around your garden will also help to deter deer. Again, they'll associate the smell of the soap with humans and that it'll give them the impression of danger and they'll avoid the area. The next suspect on our hit list is the squirrel. Squirrels are the bane of some home gardeners because they are so difficult to keep out of their gardens. They are extremely clever little animals that have all the skills and talents that allow them to maneuver under, around, and over any obstacles. If you have ever noticed squirrels bouncing around your house and yard, it's likely that they have discovered your eggplant crops. They will eat any fruit or vegetable they can get their little paws on, including both mature and young eggplants. Veggies and fruits form a big part of the squirrel's water source, so they will eat anything that ticks the boxes in both water content and nutritional value. And unfortunately, eggplants are up there on their list of favourite veggies. The typical calling card squirrels leave behind include little sections of your eggplants that have been gnawed out. Squirrels also tend to feed on the tops of the eggplants, those little green caps, for nutritional purposes. Usually, squirrels will leave spoiled eggplants around on the ground once they have satiated their thirst and hunger. So how do we stop squirrels from eating your eggplants? Ironically, one of the best ways to keep squirrels from eating your eggplants is to feed them. I know, it sounds counterintuitive. However, squirrels are simply looking to survive, and if you are able to provide a steady food and water source, you can deter them from eating your crops and keep them happy and full. If you decide to plant a sacrificial garden, we recommend stationing the food and water source away from your veggies and fruit crops. This way, the squirrels won't be enticed to go explore other options and satiate their seemingly bottomless stomachs. You can check out this video by The Country Ninja on how he keeps his squirrels away from the plants and vegetables in his garden. I'll attach a link in this video. Okay, let's now turn our attention to wild rabbits. Besides the deer, another common pest that you can potentially rule out from eating your eggplants are rabbits. Eggplants are actually considered part of the nightshade family. The leaves and stems are actually toxic to rabbits. The eggplant fruit themselves are edible for rabbits, and they will not poison them. However, they can only consume a small amount before it becomes toxic. This means if you have partially eaten eggplants and you notice some of the leaves have been chewed or stripped off the stems on other plants around it, then you can probably strike rabbits off the suspects list. So how do we keep rabbits away from your veggies? Even though rabbits are unlikely to be the culprits for your eaten eggplants, it may be helpful to understand ways to manage them and keep them out of your other vegetable patches. The most sensible solution is to install a fence around your precious crops. Because rabbits are ground-dwelling creatures, you don't need to install a tall fence. Rabbits can, however, dig under the fences, so you will need to ensure the fence line goes at least 1 foot down into the ground. We also recommend sprinkling some natural deterrents around your vegetables. It is a simple, budget-friendly method and can often be found in your spice rack in your pantry. Spices like ground up chili and red pepper are great options. Alternatively, talcum powder also works to prevent rabbits from doing too much damage. Next up is the sly raccoon. Raccoons also fall into the category of persistent garden pests that are difficult to outsmart. Like squirrels, they are agile creatures that can climb, but also have the added advantage of dexterity and brains. Not saying squirrels aren't smart. Raccoons have a very similar appetite and palate to humans. They will eat just about anything that we eat, which is why they love to dumpster dive and finish off any leftovers we may have discarded. Therefore, it stands to reason that raccoons can most definitely be eating your eggplants. Raccoons have been known to munch on plant leaves, however their preference is definitely ready-made meals, like ripened fruits and vegetables. So even though they've been known to eat leaves, it is likely that if a raccoon is raiding your eggplant crops, only the eggplant fruits themselves will be missing. Raccoons will generally carry them off and eat them elsewhere, away from the crime scene. You'll also know if raccoons have been in your garden because they'll leave their paw prints behind. So how do we stop raccoons from eating your eggplants? Given their dexterity and smarts, fences won't keep raccoons away from your eggplants. Even if you have netting or an enclosed cage around your plants, they will find the weakness and usually scramble their way in. The best method of keeping pesky raccoons away is by smelling them out. Sprinkling blood meal around your eggplants, or even around the perimeter of your garden, usually works. Raccoons hate the smell and will choose a less smelly garden to forage in. You can even try a concoction of minced garlic and chili powder, mixed into water and sprayed around the leaves of your vulnerable plants. One last method is trying to grow plants that are prickly along the fence lines that your raccoons tend to favour. They detest the feeling of the prickles on their paws and will usually stay away. So what about rats? Will they eat your eggplants? Unfortunately, yes. Rats will eat anything they can get their grubby little paws on, including your eggplants. They leave a distinct chewing pattern that is easily identifiable. That is, if they leave the evidence behind. Not only will rats eat your eggplants, they will also chew down the new leaves and stem growth on it. This is a dead giveaway that a rat is eating your eggplant because everything is gone, as opposed to a deer that will generally strip the leaves from the stems. Rats do most of their garden raids under the cover of darkness. If you notice your eggplant is getting chewed on at night, then rats are right up there as a prime suspect. Mice also fall into this category. However, they will generally stick to the mature and ripened eggplants rather than the leaves and stems. So how do we stop rats and mice from eating your eggplants? Keeping them out is a challenge, particularly because they are small, they can climb vertically, they also have sharp teeth to chew through things. We've even had first-hand experience with rats chewing through the lids of our worm farms to get to the scraps inside. They are a complete and utter nuisance. Many home gardeners have had success repelling rats and mice using natural solutions such as planting mint and herbs. Keeping a tidy garden also helps to deter rats. They require hiding places to move about and breed. So, by maintaining a tidy garden without much clutter and debris on the ground, it'll make it harder for them to move about. Picking up any fallen food and seeds also helps to reduce the food sources for the rats, and they'll soon move on to more lucrative places to feed. So who's the prime suspect in your case of what animals are eating your eggplants? Obviously, each case is unique and dependent on the suspects that are present in your home garden. We can rule out Mr. Rabbit, who can only digest small amounts of eggplants and finds the leaves and stems toxic. And Mrs. Deer generally finds eggplants bland and unappealing. If you do notice some missing leaves and stems on your eggplants, with chew or nibble marks on the eggplants themselves, we would wager a guess that Mr. Rat is stealing a midnight snack, or possibly Mrs. Squirrel who is quenching her thirst. But if your eggplants have been devastated, leaves, stems, fruit and all, then raccoons may be the prime suspect number one. Thanks for joining us on the Garden Benchtop YouTube channel. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can be notified when we release more videos like this. Thanks and happy gardening!